What is up, guys? Rambling Collector back here with another book ramble for all of you. And if you have been following my channel for a while, you would know that thus far I've been doing the Pride Month event. So, with a heavy heart, I will have to say that this will be the last video for my Pride Month event. From here on out, after this one, I will be going back to regular book reviews and the like. But what better way to conclude it than with this little short story? So today I will be covering Archie by River Isabel Pulsgrove. And I've actually just finished this one as of today. And I gotta tell you guys, in just 73 pages, it grabbed my attention, and I absolutely loved every page of this story. Let's get into it, shall we? So our story here revolves around the main character, known as Archie, and his love interest, known as Connor, the new gardener for their home. So Archie currently lives with his father Carl and his mother Josephine. And one day Josephine is wandering the streets and finds Connor scrounging for food in the dumpsters. And in a moment of kindness, she actually takes Connor and hires him on as their gardener for the family home. And what I liked about this, first of all, is that it actually represents a positive romance story. Like, at the very least, there is a happy ending despite the angst that occurs throughout this whole story. So to start off with, Josephine and Carl are in essentially a loveless marriage to begin with, because Carl is constantly away in England trying to provide for his family, and yet at the same time he's not there. He constantly claims about how he's there, wanting to provide for his family, making sure that they have a nice house, to afford a nice garden, and to help Josephine provide for the stones that she needs for her supposed witchcraft. And yet at the same time, he's a completely absent father from Archie's life, as well as an absent husband, and as a matter of fact is even cheating on Josephine during his time in England. And his only response is, well, maybe if you come along with me, I wouldn't be tempted to do so. I have needs. Which, in my opinion, that, first of all, is disgusting. That is one of the most piss-poor excuses I have ever heard in regards to yourself cheating. Sir, you need to have a bit more respect for yourself. Now, as for Archie, Josephine's dream for Archie is for him to find a good wife and essentially raise a large family. But throughout it all, Archie has shown no interest at all in any women whatsoever. And Josephine and Bonnie, the main maid of the household, are concerned about this. But as we see throughout the story, Archie seems more attracted to Connor. And I gotta tell you guys, Connor's backstory is actually a pretty sad one, because despite the fact that he's gay, he actually has a former lover known as Brian, who was beaten to death by his father after finding out that Brian liked men. And so Connor was forced to scatter Brian's ashes by the river because they would not allow him to be buried for a funeral. Which is actually pretty sad, and because of this, Connor has closed himself off to prevent himself from ever finding attraction, especially to the young boy whom he now lives with in the same household. And I gotta say, the drama and the angst really adds to this, especially when you see Archie's just being completely innocent as a sheltered boy. And honestly, watching him trying to win Connor over was honestly pretty cute, I'm not gonna lie. It really helps have that point of where Connor's just extremely jaded and Archie's just a literal sunshine boy. That's the best way I can describe Archie, I'm not even gonna lie. But what I really liked in the background of how Josephine herself is actually a sorceress, using things such as potions, rituals, cool stuff like that. And I'm honestly excited to see more of her character further on in the series. But in all honesty, it's really sad to see her and Carl's relationship just deteriorate to what it was. Because there are actually flashback moments throughout the story where we see how at one point they were happy together. They were a happy, loving couple. But because Carl decided to take a job in England, they became distant and cold towards one another. Especially when and she found out that he was cheating on her with other women while in England, just to satisfy his needs, which, again, that's just deplorable. Come on. But I do like how in the end, Archie and Connor are able to get together at the end of the story. And better yet, Josephine at first is apprehensive because during the story, we actually see how Connor and Archie are discovered during a part later on in the story during Christmas, where Carl seemingly stumbles on them. And he brings the idea to Josephine that Archie might in fact be gay and into men. And in response to this, Josephine actually kills Carl because of this. Like, she literally poisons the guy. Which I thought was pretty dang shocking. As well as a little bit extreme, but what can you do? By this point, she was just not happy with the guy. But in all seriousness, though, during the time after Carl's funeral, where we see Archie flashbacking on memories back when Carl actually used to be a father to Archie, it makes it a really bitter moment, where we see Archie recollecting the moments with his father that he even had, which were few and far between. And yet at the same time, we don't really feel bad for the guy. For Carl, I mean, not Archie. Archie, you do feel bad. But as for Carl, nah. But it is really wholesome to see Josephine discover that, in fact, Archie is, in fact, into men. When she stumbles on Archie and Connor one night, when they're just comforting one another. And what does she do? After a few moments, she decides that she'd rather her son be happy than trying to fulfill the vision that she had for him. And I actually find that really wholesome and supportive. So, to make a long story short afterwards, I really like how in the epilogue, Connor, who's now working at the bar, does in fact run into another guy who's the same as him and Archie. So he actually takes this guy in to see Miss Josephine, who then proceeds to provide a home and roof for this guy, known as Kevin. And I really like that wholesomeness of how Josephine ends up getting her wish of having a large family, just in a very unorthodox way. But I think I've rambled about this enough, so let's get on with the score, shall we? So all in all, I'll give Archie at least a solid 9 out of 10. The only reason it is not a 10 out of 10 is because whilst I was reading, I noticed that there were a few grammar and spelling errors, but besides that, everything else was very solid. It was a very to-the-point story, didn't waste time with worthless filler, and managed to resolve the story in at least 74 episodes, whilst introducing us to more characters within the Dead Souls universe. Now, if you guys are actually interested in checking out more short stories by the same author, I would actually recommend the short stories of Cora and Midnight Kiss, which also takes place in the Dead Souls universe, and are essentially prequels to everything. So all in all, I do recommend giving Archie a try. And as I said earlier, this will be the concluding video of the Pride Month event. For those of you who stuck around to the end of this video, thank you so much for listening to this crazy man's ramblings. And if you did like the Pride Month event, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. And if you have any other book or comic or manga recommendations, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. And again, thank you all for listening. Have an awesome day. This is Rambling Collector, signing off.